book, you speak about the importance of rest, which is something that as moms, we
Well,
are not always good at doing. We never get to ourselves on the list if we ever make it on the list at all. But it is incredibly, incredibly important that we fill up our own cups before we try to fill up anyone else's. Can you speak to, in your book, I think you used the phrase, much to be said for living an unhurried life. Can you speak to the importance of rest and maybe give some encouragement for into these other homeschool parents and mamas of how to find that rest, even if they're, they've got littles at home, how to find that rest?
I will. Yes, it's a blessing to live an unhurried life. It was a joke in our family that, especially with my father-in-law, my dear father-in-law, he would say, these kids, if they're in a hurry, you're in trouble. I mean, we did try to live an unhurried life, and that started with, I've mentioned before, but with a restful morning Bible time and prayer and asking for help for that. It 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 manifested itself into this our own schedule. We're in charge of our own schedule, so we would do things that would make things less hurried. For those of you who have kids in sports, or a lot of times, or whatever you have activities you're are part of, you know, they're good things, but sometimes you might not be able to do all of the good things. There were times in our lives we used to do something in our family called an eternal significance check. And we would say, is this eternally significant? Does it really matter in the end? And sometimes we'd eliminate things because of that. I know my daughters were ballet dancers, and they loved, my older two, they loved ballet. And they were to the level where they would have to go 4 days a week and Saturday mornings. And we lived 50 minutes away. And as hard as it was, and my oldest cried, we hated it. It was a sad time, but we just said, as for our family, we just cannot make the jump from 2 days a week to 4 and Saturday mornings. We just can't do it. Family life is too important. So, and God bless that, because when she was a senior in high school, she went back and took when she turned 18, there was a little adult class that she could go to one night a week. And she continued ballet for a while and loved it. So she was able to come back for that. But those kind of things are important to reflect. I always talk about self-reflection because it's important to me to always be looking at where I am and where our family is, but to see if things if it's just too much. Sometimes it's just too much. Now, I also, this is funny, but for me, it's hot tea. You ladies, you need to find something that is a special thing for you. For me, it's hot tea. I love hot tea. So just the act of making myself a cup of hot tea in the morning when my kids were at home, I would make that cup of hot tea, and it was so special. It was just a special thing for me. And I do it also in the afternoon. I also am a big advocate for a healthy lifestyle and exercise. So how will I exercise? All of these things are going on in my life. How will I exercise? So you have to ask yourself what works. For me, not going to a gym or going out of the house didn't work. I couldn't find time. I didn't know when I would do that. So let's see, well, it was a long time ago. It was probably soon after I started homeschooling. I bought one of those mini trampolines, those Xer bouncers, and I bounce. I'd run, jog on that thing. To this day, I do it, and maybe 5 times a week. But guess what? I could do that. I could do that while my kids were playing in the house. I could do that. I can remember bouncing, and they were reading aloud, or they were going over something. I was asking them questions about. I would say, tell me about the theme of that book, and I'd be bouncing, and they'd be telling me, and so it worked. It worked in our life. And then, so my point is, you have to find something that works for you. It might be taking all of the kids on a walk, or you all might go swimming, or whatever it is. You might all go to the gym. I didn't have very athletic. My girls don't care about those kind of things, so we did other things. But whatever. No, mine didn't want to go to the gym. It's funny though. As adults, they'll go, but as kids, they didn't want to. So
But they
you
were
have to find
dancers,
what.
so.
Yes, they were dancers. So you have to find what works for you, because you don't have a lot of time. You're right. And I go back to my organization.
Mm,
If you can do crock pot things, easy dinners, everybody makes his and her own pizzas. Those kind of things. It's
mm,
important. You have to be creative and think of ways that make your life easier because you have so much on your plate. So I
mhm,
think thinking of something special, whether it's coffee for you or tea or some kind of treat. I'm big on treats, so I always think of the food or the treats. Exercise. You
me
know
too.
what, ladies? It was a bath for me. In the evening, my kids and my husband, my sweet husband, would keep them away from the door, but they all knew that mom was in the bathtub for like a good 30 minutes, 40 minutes, and that was every evening. And all of those things helped fuel me and make me feel like I could keep going. So those are just a few of the things. I tried to get outside a lot. We do a lot of outside school. We always were on the patio or in the
Mhm.
yard, or, I think it's important to get out of the house some. So again, just find something that you feel like I'm doing this little. It might be little, but this is wonderful. That cup of hot tea was just wonderful to me. So those are the kind of things, and I do think you need uh, to look at your schedule and what you're doing. And sometimes we just have to give something up or cut back and realize that for that season in our life, that's what has to happen. And you could come back to it another time.
That is so very true. That is just the perfect explanation of basically working smarter, not harder. You're not going to
Exactly.
have the Pinterest dinners, and you don't have to. It's okay.
Exactly. Exactly.